To this week's episode of Hollywood Matrimony Live. Thank you so much for watching us live on YouTube and Facebook. Don't forget to check out our website, hollywoodmatrimony.com, and go find us on the Twitter and the Instagram. Babe, look how crooked that camera looks. It's like this.
Well, we don't look crooked, do we?
I
I
don't
can
know.
fix it if you want me to.
I mean, we might just be crooked. That's okay. Let's just go with it. We're going to roll with it.
Fix it if you want me to. Well, I guess it is a little bit. Can you fix it?
A little.
Sorry, live people.
All right.
Eh.
Oh, there. Stop. Just let it happen.
Is that okay?
Now I think it needs to go up because I don't want people to see my legs. I have that weird thing. Okay.
Oh.
That's good.
Oh, you don't want people to see your little chicken legs.
I know. I have a weird thing about that. I feel
She
like
does.
we're like the news.
But she
desk.
wears shorts all the time, so it's not even a real thing.
It's just on here. Like I feel like it
I'm
breaks.
saying it's not even a real thing.
It breaks the thing. Like I feel like we're at the news desk, and at the news desk you don't see people's legs.
Yeah, the news
It's
desk
weird.
also don't have dogs walking around.
Well, that's a whole different
They're not.
issue.
They're not eating snacks.
I need snacks.
They don't have Godzilla.
Today I would like to thank Hershey Kisses for keeping me alive. They make me feel better.
I think Hershey's Kisses are killing you. Is what's happening.
They made me feel good, girl.
All right, what do we got today, sister?
Oh my gosh, you guys, we have such a wide variety of movies. Let me share my screen. I'm not even ready. I'm over here like, let's start the show.
Yeah, she always yells at me like, "Are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready?"
I'm
And
not
then every time
ready.
she's like, "I'm not quite ready."
I'm not ready.
So I'm ready. I'm just like,
Are you ready? I'm not ready. Okay, let me go tell people come watch our show. It's 7
all right. Well, I'm gonna do this while you're doing that.
Okay.
We have a plethora of things, and for once, we saw almost everything together. I think maybe one or two items.
We're gonna go this way, so you're gonna start
A couple
with
of things that I saw without you, and for the first time ever, we saw everything we needed to see by Friday.
guys.
Normally, we're seeing things all the way up to the last minute of the show just because of our time.
We didn't have anything to do yesterday.
We're also rocking new shirts.
Yes.
I had a birthday
Thank
this
you.
last couple of weeks, or a couple weeks ago, and so both of them are my birthday shirts. This one's a little small for me, but it fits her personality, so she's wearing it. And then this one was the day I got this shirt, it fits my personality.
Are you
so
so over it?
So, but it also
You're
fits.
blocking it with your computer. You
It's
need to
okay.
move your computer.
This shirt also fits today's time period.
I'm over all of it.
They were all
It's too
kind of
much.
over it.
Would you like a Hershey Kisses?
No, thank you.
We are not sponsored by Hershey Kisses. I just love them.
I just don't get people's love of those.
I know.
They're just they're bland. Like
I
have
love milk chocolate.
I like chocolate, but I want it to have something with it. I'm not a fan of chocolate, just chocolate.
See, I like this.
Like,
I
I'll
like
eat
it
these.
to just melt all in.
I'll eat these. I'll pop them and be like, that's fine. If I'm like just needed something sweet,
Yeah.
but then I'm irritated by them when I'm done eating them because I'm like, they're nothing. This is laziness, is what this is. This isn't even a candy bar. This is just going.
Well, I like Hershey bars too.
I don't like those either.
See, I love milk chocolate.
Let me rephrase my statement. I don't dislike them.
You like more substance to your candy bar. You
I
want
like
stuff
substance
in it.
to everything. Like
Uh-huh.
I'm the same thing with chips. I don't like plain chips.
Like I do. I will eat
I want a
plain tortilla
flavored chip.
chips or the Lay's potato chips. I'll
And
eat those.
I'll eat those, but I need something with them.
I see. I'll eat them just
I
like
need a dip. I need some flavor that's not greasy corn.
Your only childness is coming out with that. Because with me, it's like you got chip, you got whatever you got. Like
Oh
here's
no
a
no
chip.
no! Make no mistake. We were poor. I got whatever they gave me.
Okay.
I wasn't spoiled by any means.
I feel like you were spoiled because you were an only baby, and so I feel like your mom gave you everything you wanted.
I wish.
I'm gonna ask her.
Ask her. She'll say, "Oh, I gave you everything that I could," which wasn't crap because we were poor.
I know. Me too. But
so I mean, it's like I never went without.
the dog is licking the bottom of my shoes.
That's
It's so weird.
we always had food, and we always had but I grew up in a 2-bedroom, 1-bath house.
Me too.
And it was not that that's a bad thing. It was just
That's
me
what
and
it
my
was.
parents.
It was the 70s, man. That's what everybody
It was
had.
like we had that, and then it was like a
Now the
1-car
dog is-
garage. And both my parents worked. My dad worked 2 jobs, and my mom worked a job. And it was they paid bills, they took care of business however they had to. But we
So then
didn't-
maybe now you moved on up. So now you're like, I don't eat chips by themselves. I have to have a dip.
no,
You
no,
fancy.
It's always been a flavor thing. Like when I was a kid, if I had chips, I always wanted. When I was a kid, it was always sour cream and onion. That's the chips I wanted.
Did you like Funyuns?
Yeah, because they had flavor.
See, I didn't like that smell.
Look, you don't like the smell of onion?
Nah, nobody likes that. Not
But you put
Funyun.
onions in everything.
I
now.
do, but not Funyun chips. Like,
But
why
see,
do I
that's
walk
but see,
around?
your chip. I don't know why we're on this whole chip
Somebody,
discussion. But,
nice shirt, babe.
thank you.
Birthday shirts.
Thank you. But also, your love of plain chocolate and plain chips
Yes.
fits into the person I met. Because when I met you, you didn't like seasoning in anything.
That's true.
You were the most bland, sad eater I'd ever seen. Because we would go out and you didn't put salt or pepper on anything. You didn't want hot sauce on anything. No, but you didn't want, like, you didn't eat Chinese food. You didn't eat sushi. You didn't eat anything. It was like,
go eat sushi.
it was very plain and bleh. Everything is bleh. And now, everything is just the opposite. You're like, this has no flavor.
Oh my God.
You know, and you did the same things, like you didn't drink when we met. And not that you drink much now, but you used to be like, if you'd have a drink and whatever. Now it's like, there is nothing in this. You know, your whole palate has changed.
That's why I don't even care about it anymore.
We don't drink that often. Like, you know, every so often if we're with friends or having dinner or something like that. But beyond that, not really.
Who were you, Drew? Hey, Drew was boring.
Yeah, y'all don't know the original Drew.
I'm so mellow now. It's like, whatever.
She was a grumpy old woman.
Grumpy old lady.
She was bitchy. She was rude.
I still am.
I honestly don't know why we were together at the time.
Rare.
Not because of that. Like, I loved you and all, but it was like, there's many days I said, like, why do I tolerate this woman? Because you were a horrible human being.
Oh, well.
But you've grown.
It says this is Drew 2.0.
That's right. Now, this is about 5.0 by this point. Y'all didn't see the different iterations that I had to live with.
Many upgrades.
So
all right.
This is 20-something years of me fixing.
Hey.
In normal life, it's the woman fixing the man.
I've been fixing you too.
What about me has changed since the day you met me?
I'll get back to you.
I am the same person there may be perspective changes or something like that, but I am still the same person.
I know you are.
I didn't change. You, on the other hand, she was heading for trouble. Let me tell you what.
You looking for trouble?
All right, let's move it on.
All right.
Let's talk about movies instead of our lives.
We got so many movies. You want to just start and go this way?
Yeah, whatever you want.
Okay, here we go. Tell me about this, because I know you were looking forward to it, and what ended up happening.
Okay, so I'm always looking forward to anything that's martial arts, and even more so with the Ip Man, but this movie is Ip Man, The Awakening. It is not connected to the Donnie Yen franchise. There have been a lot of different movies that focus on Ip Man. There's the 4 Donnie Yen movies, which are probably the premiere, set the standard, if you will, of that story. There's the Grand Master, which is really good. And the Grand Master is proof that you can make an Ip Man movie that can maybe not rival the Donnie Yen franchise, but still stand on a really good movie. This is not one of those.
Aw, too bad.
It's got some decent fighting in it. What this is it follows a young Ip Man. If you don't know who Ip Man is, he's Bruce Lee's instructor. That's the claim to fame. But he was this iconic martial artist that I think he became more iconic because he trained Bruce Lee than actually who he was. But he went through a lot of struggle in the time period of that. But this new movie is kind of a younger version of him. It's kind of feels more like a action movie of him instead of a life story of him. Where the Donnie Yen movies kind of seem to be, it's filled with action, but it's also kind of following his life and things that are happening. Yeah. This one feels like it's more of like, let's make a new action movie with that man. And it's fine. The tone, the visuals, even the camera work, I guess, it felt more like a soap opera than a movie, if you will.
Was it kind of like that Bruce Lee soap opera thing?
Yes. But that was a soap opera.
I know.
That Bruce Lee, there was a Bruce Lee series, TV series.
It was a TV soap opera,
and they released it in like 3 or 4 volumes.
What are you looking at?
How many are up there? I don't have my glasses. It says Bruce Lee, it's red, yellow, and orange. At the very top. Next to Land of the Lost.
Yeah.
There's just 3. You can see it
There's
says Bruce Lee.
Bruce Lee. There's 3.
3. So it's 3 volumes, which was like, they put it out, the series, and they later released them as like a movie kind of thing. Anyway, they're not good either. But this one has some good fights, but it didn't feel, how do I explain it? It's far away from quality level of the Donnie Yen stuff, but that's not fair because those movies, and it's Donnie Yen, that's a big thing to live up to. The movie's fine, but it struggles a lot on trying to be this serious, darker tone to the storyline, but then it feels like the 70s kung fu flicks with some of the silly voices and silly kind of mockery of characters and stuff. And it's not
Yeah.
just a translation, it's the way people act. So it's just one of those that if you watch it just for the fighting, there's a couple of the fight scenes that are not cut very well, but there's a lot of them that are decent
Yeah.
and they're fun to watch. But as a whole, the movie's like just eh. So
That's too bad.
but if you want to watch it, we're giving away a copy on our website.
Hey, HollywoodMatrimony.com. This copy right here could be yours.
Yeah, we have a few of them, so if you want to interest, go to our website.
There you go. Check it
And
out.
so it's available now on Blu-ray and DVD from Wogo USA.
Okay. I'm going to go to here and then
Okay.
we'll come back. All right. Next, the new iteration of Father of the Bride. It's available now on HBO Max.
And so I want to say something about this before we get into the
Okay.
movie. People like to complain about remakes and
Yes,
reboots.
this is a
and like,
reboot.
oh,
I guess.
why are we remaking this movie again? A reboot. The Steve Martin one's so good. This is a franchise that goes back to the 50s. There was 2 or 3 in the 50s. Then they kind of a reboot, redo with Steve Martin, which they made 2 of,
Yes.
with a planned 3rd one that never happened.
Correct.
They did a online short kind of thing, I believe it was, with Robert De Niro. And it was kind of Father of the Bride 3-ish. I think it was during the pandemic. I don't know where it was released. And now we're to the new current one. None of them are connected. It's supposed to be part of the same movie. The upside to this new one, which I was, before I really remembered all this stuff, I knew of those Steve Martin ones, but I didn't realize they'd come back. So, and if you don't know this, I research when a remake is made, because before I complain about it, I try to find out. It's kind of like the Magnificent Seven.
Yeah.
When the Magnificent Seven remake came out, everybody's like, oh, it's a remake of Magnificent. Magnificent Seven is a remake of Seven Ronin, or Seven Samurai, excuse me. So these are always, a lot of times, are way further back than the people complain about. Anyways,
what
I like about this new movie
redo
is, but it's not the same story.
Correct.
Same context. All of these are based on the same novel's concept, but they do their own thing.
Correct.
So tell us about this one.
All right. So this is now the Cuban American version of Father of the Bride. It stars Andy Garcia, Gloria Estefan, and then the girl, I don't remember her name, Adria Roja and Diego Boneta are the 2 kids you see right there, the ones that are getting married. This was the largest streaming opening for HBO Max. So all the Latinos are out there watching this movie because you either love Andy Garcia, if not, you love some Gloria Estefan, just because those were our people.
And I can tell you, as much as I love the Steve Martin movie, I don't remember the second one that much.
I don't remember the second one. I know the first.
I know I've seen them, but
I have to go watch it again.
I love all things Steve Martin. The man's a genius.
It's awesome.
And I remember Martin Short, I believe, was the wedding planner. It's hilarious.
Yes. Well, they do everything together, I feel like.
Yeah, well, they didn't back then. They did a lot of stuff together. But anyway, I wasn't looking forward to this movie. I wasn't against it.
See, and I was all excited.
I love Andy Garcia. I think Gloria Estefan is actually a really good actress.
I love Gloria Estefan because in my house, my dad had a little crush on Gloria Estefan when I was
well, and I understand the.
Who are you talking to? We are having a show, sir.
Oh, so hold on. I'm going to bring this up because we're on the show.
Oh, gosh.
So my daughter, okay, so everybody knows that I love cake, right?
Yeah.
So my daughter just randomly sent me a picture and said, do you want me to bring you some of the wedding cake? It's red velvet, but actually still tastes really good because she knows I don't really like red velvet cake. And I was like, whose wedding were you at? This was hers a year ago. So I guess they defrosted their cake topper. I didn't realize, I didn't connect the two at the time.
Because you complained that you didn't get cake that day because remember it was.
No. I got a little bit of a cake, but I didn't get very much.
Well, they took it away because it was melting because hello, summer in Texas.
Yeah.
Tell her to bring you a piece. Anyways. You guys that were there in the wedding remember sweating, and it was fun.
So anyway, but I understand as a cultural thing, you were probably clicking. My thing with this movie was just like, the story just wasn't something I was interested in. But I was wanting to watch it, crossing my fingers, because a lot of times, much like yourself, when you're not looking forward to the movie, a lot of times you're surprised.
Yeah, which is good.
And I knew if with these 2 leading the charge, it was at least going to be good. You know, because, I mean, Andy Garcia is Andy Garcia, and you know, and even if she doesn't break in a song, it still might be good. So
yeah, and I like that we got it from the Cuban American perspective because one of the things they're dealing with and that he's constantly is on his mind is like I came from Cuba with nothing. I had to work my way up.
He's trying to be as far away from Cuba as possible.
But he has worked himself to death where that's created this big problem between him and Gloria Estefan. It's like all you do is work.
Yeah, he's trying to be as far away from the country Cuba, but not his heritage,
Correct.
but being poor in Cuban. He's he wants to be American Cuban.
And to me, that was really impactful because I think that's the American dream story of, you know, most of us that are here, you know, first, second generation, whatever it may be, that, you know, you want to remember where you came from, but you're also trying to chase that American dream. But you see in the movie,
well, I told you in the movie at one point,
to get to the dream, he's kind of forgotten his family.
Yeah, and the other side of it is knowing the storylines of these movies is about the father dealing with the wedding of his daughter and is not like whether it's the groom or doesn't like him getting married or whatever. That's the kind of the premise of all the movies.
Correct.
And him having to plan a wedding he doesn't want to have to plan.
Correct.
And in this case, they're talking about moving to Mexico. And he's very against it. And I told you at the beginning of the movie, I said, it's not about them moving to Mexico. It's he's upset that they're trying to run back to what he's been trying to get away.
Yeah.
And not seeing what's really happening. And I thought it was a nice twist what the revelation is of why. Yeah. Is it was actually a very impactful on how you raise kids and their thoughts about what you did and where you came from.
Correct. And I think, you know, those of us who have grown up with immigrant parents, like my dad was the first one to come here. So I'm like, I guess.
Ever?
Well, no, I'm just saying from
the first human?
Yes. So does that mean I'm kind of first generation born here?
You're second because your brother was first.
Oh,
you're second.
No. But I'm saying, you know,
of his family.
The immigrant story is part of our story. The struggle, the coming here, the not knowing anyone, having to learn the language. So you get that in your mind. So I think part of the thing that connected to me is you do work harder. You absolutely push yourself harder to just get where everyone else has gotten.
Well, and it's funny because with everything that goes on in this country, and I know this isn't the segue we were planning for this kind of a movie, but it was always talked about how this country was built on with immigrants. And it was. Yeah. And it was always about, we welcome all immigrants to come to this land of the free and the country to be whoever you want to be and do whatever you want. But we're now in a time period of there's so many people that blame the immigrants for the problems. Even though half the crap we have would not exist had the immigrants not came.
Yeah.
And the immigrants and the Hispanic people and the Asian people and the Indian people and the black people, all these different people that aren't the whites, do all the work that the wealthy people don't want to do.
Correct.
But when they stop doing it, like we've seen a lot of happen right now, where they're saying, no, we're not going to do this work anymore. Then people are like, well, nobody wants to work. So it's like you can't have it both ways. Yeah. You know, but they typically, especially Hispanic people, 90% of the ones that I've ever seen, and most of them out there, work harder than anyone else. And it's always a horrible job, like working in the sun.
I feel bad, like for my brother right now. He's,
you know, like our Mr. Dominguez that does our landscaping.
I love Mr. Dominguez
the
and
nicest
his sweet little
man.
Son.
You know, he's the nicest man. He does our landscaping and stuff. But a man's out in that 100-degree weather, and he's working his ass off. Always has a smile on his face.
He's the happiest lawn guy I've ever seen.
And who knows, when we walk away from him, he could be just in tears while he's mowing. I don't know. But the man always is pleasant. He's always hardworking. Nice. And it just shows like the dedication to what you want to do.
We need to ask him how his son's doing.
Yeah, because he has somebody in college.
We watched his little boy grow up.
Shocking turn of events. He has a child that went to college.
I need to ask how he's doing.
Anyway, sorry.
Sorry.
Anyway, back to Father of the Bride.
Anyway,
I actually really like this movie.
I really enjoyed this movie, and I liked the twist on it, and I connected to a lot of it. And I think it's funny because they're planning a wedding in Miami during hurricane season, so just know.
And there's a whole theme of flamenco.
I was like, oh my gosh, this is so dumb. But anyway, it's a really cute movie. So
it is.
It's HBO Max. Check it out.
It's got a little bit of cliched mentality. You know where it's kind of going to go. It's not breaking down the barriers of anything, but it's like I've talked about in some of the other movies recently, is this cultural twist adds more to the story.
And I think too, because his family's Cuban and the groom, his family's Mexican,
which makes it even better.
So you get some of that because that's totally a thing.
Yeah, because if you're not Hispanic and don't know, most of these Hispanic people do not like.
Do not get us confused.
And don't call a Mexican El Salvadorian, and don't call that El Salvadorian a Mexican.
Don't mix it
That
up.
will get you cut. And it's interesting because, you know, there's so many of the mentality of saying everybody's Hispanic, everybody's Mexican, everybody. You know, when you say, oh, they speak Spanish, they're brown. Most people immediately go, they must be Mexican. And there's so many different
Don't
layers.
do it.
You know,
Don't do it.
And you know what, Portugal? It's a version of Spanish.
Yeah,
you know,
Portuguese.
but it's not the same
and
thing.
In Brazil, yeah.
It's Spain. So. It's actual Spain, and
yeah, we don't like the way they speak Spanish. It's weird.
I know. So there's very, but that's what I'm thinking. It's a story like this. It's its own story. It's got a lot of culture to it, but it's also two cultures clashing, having some of the same issues, but in different directions, and they're all wealthy people.
Yeah,
which is another
adds
great
an
thing.
Interesting layer to the story.
Yeah, they didn't go into the, but even with they did and they didn't. It didn't go into the stereotype of the Hispanics, despite still bringing in the mariachi band that we were cracking up because we had a mariachi band at our wedding.
But look, that's what you do. I'm sorry, if you're Latino in any way, you have to have a mariachi band.
And if you want to see a bunch of really freaked out, confused white people, you come to my wedding. At a white Baptist church, I say white because it's predominantly, there's other people there. But it was a Baptist church in Texas, and nobody knew except for you, me, and maybe your mom and dad.
Yeah, because my dad paid for
your dad got it. They're the only.
They were a Christian mariachi at church, so it's okay.
No, that's fine. Yeah, but we didn't tell anybody. And I think you were singing when they came in with them.
Yes.
So they were like, "Where's Drew? Where's it?" Because that was how you entered when they presented you, right? Yeah. So I came in without you.
I think
if I remember correctly.
I think we came in and then
you left.
Back.
Yeah. So then they were like, I remember everybody asking me, "Where's Drew?" And I was cracking up on the inside because I'm like, you'll have no idea what's about to happen. And we're in this thing and there's double doors and they started playing before the doors open.
Yes.
You never got to see this.
I didn't.
But all the people in this church, they're sitting there.
Were they like jumping?
They were sitting around the tables, and my family, you know, the white people, especially my grandmother, they were all like, you would have thought they were in the Alamo about to be attacked. They were like, people were like, what is this?
You're so crazy.
And I remember my mom going, do you hear that? And I'm like, I said, yeah, what is that? She goes, I don't know. And then she goes, where is Drew? Like she was like, you were going to be upset about it. And even though the doors didn't fly open all dramatically, that's what you would have thought had happened. They just went, so you would have thought doves flew in.
That would have been awesome.
And she's singing in Spanish, I think.
Yes.
In I'm talking full ass mariachi band. And these people are like, some of them were like freaked out. Some of them just got up and started like dancing. There was a party happening. And I'm just standing back like cracking up because I knew all these white people were confused. And my mom and dad had both told me years after we got married that they still talked about that was the only mariachi band that ever been in that church.
Oh my god!
They still talk about it. Did y'all hear about the mariachi band at their wedding? Their son's wedding. Awesome. Anyway,
that's just normal. Oh well. Anyways, check it out, Father of the Bride. It's on HBO Max now.
It is not the same story as a Steve Martin one either.
Different.
They don't try to just rehash the story.
It's different. It's
different. They do something different. It was actually fun to watch.
Okay, tell me about this nonsense.
Oh my God, I've been so excited for this.
Was he the Great Cornholio?
He does the Great Cornholio. So when they launched Paramount Plus, they announced a bunch of new South Park movies, Beavis and Butthead, a new Beavis and Butthead movie, and a bunch of other stuff. And I kind of thought maybe it fell under the radar. It was never going to happen. And like, I think a couple of weeks ago, they dropped a trailer for Beavis and Butthead Do the Universe. So I was stoked. And then I kind of moved on because I didn't know when it was coming out.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden it was this week. And I'm like, what?
Did you go watch the other movie?
Well, here's the irony of it all. About a month ago, they just released like an anniversary edition of Beavis and Butthead Do America on Blu-ray. So I had watched it and reviewed it.
Oh,
so it was
okay, cool. So it was fresh.
I've seen it 100 times.
Yeah, of course.
So if you don't know Beavis and Butthead,
let's catch up some of our friends from Beavis and Butthead.
They're two classic boys who are very intelligent, who love music.
They're dum-dums.
Okay, they're two idiots.
It was in the 90s,
It was the 90s on MTV.
MTV.
And basically,
okay, so MTV used to play music videos all day long.
So they also did a lot of animation. They did this thing called Liquid Television. Liquid Television was originally like an animation block that had a whole kinds of different short cartoons. The movie Office Space actually came from the animated Liquid Television, which was the guy with his stapler story.
I need my stapler.
And it's voiced by the guy that plays him in the movie.
Yeah.
And that spawned into the movie Office Space. Mike Judge, who directed Office Space, is also the voices and creator of Beavis and Butthead. And so in the show, it would have a storyline but then it was intercut with them two sitting on a couch watching music videos.
He's like, hey,
and they would commentate. It's kind of like Mystery Science. Yeah, it's like Mystery Science 3000, watching music videos, but it wasn't always music you'd ever heard of. Yes. Like sometimes they loved it, sometimes they're like, what is this crap? You know, but what this also did, as silly as that sounds, is it put a lot of people like Rob Zombie, White Zombie, they got put on the map because of Beavis and Butthead. And then I mentioned it last week, Rob Zombie actually animated a sequence in the Beavis and Butthead Do America movie, and now, of course, has directed movies, put out numerous albums and whatnot. So anyway, for the new one, they made a movie called Beavis and Butthead Do the Universe. And essentially what this movie does is it brings them up to the year 2022 through time travel, so they didn't have to age them. So the premise of the movie is the simple version is they destroy a science fair and they're arrested. And when they're arrested, I don't know why it just makes me laugh so much to tell that. You got to remember it's 1998 when this happens, right? So the judge is like one of this hardened judge who throws the book at everybody. And so you see the principal and a bunch of the characters from the old show, and they're all excited because they just know that Beavis and Butthead are finally going to prison. And the guy goes, but I just watched an episode of Touched by an Angel, and it really got me. So he ends up sending them to, because it was a science fair, he ends up sending them to space camp.
Oh, okay. That would never happen, but okay.
Yeah, I know. Well, it's the 90s. You never know that.
I know.
But anyway, through a certain various events, they end up in space on the space shuttle, and then they end up getting thrown into a black hole, and they go through time, and they show up into 2022. And so then it becomes a story about another. It's basically like the same as the first movie. It's a road trip of them trying to score, because that's what everything they do is about trying to score. Yeah. And they're trying to score this lady who was an astronaut. She's now a senator. She thinks they're dead. Now she thinks they come back in time or come in from the future to kill her.
Oh, Lord.
So she's trying to kill them. They're trying to find her and go have sex with her. Nobody's on the same page. But meanwhile, they're learning about cell phones. They're learning about credit cards. They're learning about all these different things that they didn't have back then. It is hilarious. It's all the same things you expect from Beavis and Butthead. You get the great Cornholio shows up.
Did he TP for his bunghole?
He does, and he's in jail when he does it, which causes an entire riot at the prison, and they decide all the prisoners are wanting TP for their bunghole because of it, and so they end up trying to turn over a new leaf and give the prisoners the TP they need. So it was actually a good thing. But
there you go.
If you love Beavis and Butthead, you will love the movie. It's not breaking down walls. It's not like anything different. It's the same animation. It's a little cleaner.
It looks like the lines are cleaner.
Yeah, the lines are cleaner. It's not as shaky as it used to be. It's almost identical to the original movie. There's even some of the characters from the original movie that get killed in more present day. So it's kind of like connecting everything. But I'm pretty sure their plan is to do new episodes on Paramount Plus.
Oh, that'll be fun.
And they did. They are putting the entire run of the original series. Right now it's just some random episodes. But fully intact with the original music videos.
Oh, that would be awesome.
All of it's going to be back, so you can go back and watch the entire run of Beavis and Butthead.
I would love it. What are you looking for, Beavis and Butthead?
Yeah, I have the full series somewhere on it. It's right there. It's right in front of us.
Oh, Lord.
But, yeah, so if you haven't checked that, you can go to Paramount Plus. You can watch Beavis and Butthead Do America, the first movie. Watch the show. It's ridiculous. It's stupid. I grew up on it. They're back. Well, they're laying down. Hold on. I have to get them.
Yeah, get them. They're right behind you.
I know, but they're laying down. You can't see them. I've had these since back then.
Do they still work?
I don't think they work very well. 1993. That's how old these are. So here's Butthead. Let's see if it's got the old school pull string. You kids don't know about this, but I don't think he works anymore. Oh, he does.
He said, this sucks.
So that's Butthead. He doesn't sit up well. And then we got Beavis. His pants are falling off too. I think Beavis was the one that didn't work very well.
Oh yeah, his voice box is different.
So anyway, so I have at one point I had a ton of Beavis and Butthead stuff. I still have these two, and I have these two little figurines about this big. They may be over there. Yeah, they're right there. Yeah, they're about this big. That I still have. That's pretty much all that's left in my Beavis and Butthead collection. All right then. But the movie is great. Check it out. It's exclusively on Paramount Plus. I loved it, and I'm so glad. My life feels better and complete.
I'm glad.
And here's what's really funny is the first thing I watched after one of the movies we saw, probably the biggest movie we'll talk about, is that's what I watched right after it was Beavis and Butthead.
Oh my gosh. All right.
Go ahead.
Next, we're going here. All
Are we
right.
skipping that other one?
I'm going to come back.
Okay.
So we've been wanting to watch this movie forever. Obviously, for a couple of months, we're behind.
But we had to wait for the video.
This
Blu-ray to
stars Bobby's man crush. If you want to introduce.
His name is Colin Farrell.
Okay, and then
I just love all things Colin Farrell. I love all things Johnny Depp and Colin Farrell.
Pretty much.
Yeah, if they're in it, I will watch it. That doesn't mean everything they do I love, but I will watch anything they put out.
So this is an interesting.
It is not the movie I thought it was.
Not at all. I wasn't sure what I was expecting, but it certainly wasn't this, and I'm glad. I'm glad I got something more than what I thought. So we're in an alternate future, I guess, where should we say what he is?
Yeah, it's in the trailer.
Where I guess robots or
androids whatever
are commonplace, and you can go get one.
Yeah, so Yang is an android that they've adopted. It's an Asian android they've adopted for their daughter, who I'm assuming is adopted.
Correct.
Who's also Asian, so that she could keep connection with her Asian heritage.
Correct.
And there's an issue with the robot.
Yes, basically something goes wrong with Yang, and they take him in to be serviced, and it starts just a series of events. And it's interesting because, in a way, it kind of discusses, are androids actually people?
Yeah.
So, and I think it's a subject matter we've talked about in a way, like if you're into Star Trek or whatever, we always had the thing with Data. Was Data real? And then the new Picard series, it's even the further evolution of android life to where, it's like, are they real? Are they not? They're kind of sentient beings. And so, I mean, it's kind of a theme I think we're all aware of. At what point does life actually begin?
Yeah. It's also dealing with loss.
Mm-hmm.
It's dealing with what I didn't expect was the culture mentality of people that are, how do you raise a child that you don't understand it or don't know their culture?
Yeah, see, and I thought that was really interesting because they
and it's already an interracial marriage.
Right, and they adopted a little Asian girl, and they didn't want her to feel out of place.
Yeah, and there's a discussion. There's a discussion too because of the issues with Yang of like, well, that means maybe we have to teach ourselves, which means we have to learn about it. And there's like, but should we be teaching it because we're not Asian? It's that
and then
that weird thing of like me teaching my children Hispanic heritage of not being Hispanic just because I'm married to you.
Well,
or should you be teaching it?
Yeah,
no, I know, but I'm saying it's that weird, uncomfortable, like it's like you trying to teach somebody about chicken fried steaks. You shouldn't be teaching
I
it
love
because,
me some chicken fried steak.
But that's white people food, so you need to not.
But I feel like I taught the kids about Mexican food. Like they typically they eat way more stuff than I even eat. Like there's some stuff I haven't even eaten. But it's interesting because I don't know if you've ever seen videos like on YouTube or on Facebook,
I have seen videos on YouTube and Facebook.
Like the ladies that have like a white lady who might have a black daughter, and she's showing how
she's like learning how to raise her hair.
Yeah, and sometimes they get hater comments.
Here's ironic.
Some are nice.
I have one of my students is mixed. The husband is black and the mother is white. But the daughter has that style of hair.
Ethnic hair.
And I was just asking her the other day about because she had these really cool braids and had some blue and some extensions and stuff.
That's cute.
And I'd ask her like, so you do her hair, And she goes, yeah. I'm like, how does that take? So I think it's cool to see that something she adapted to do it. I mean, it was intricate. This means she knows how to do this hair. This isn't just a ponytail.
Yeah. Well, and I think,
excuse me, sorry.
Obviously on a larger scale, that's what the movie's dealing with. It's just like how much or how involved do you become, or do you even I think in their minds, they were trying to make sure she didn't feel out of place. But they also didn't want to ignore her heritage.
Yeah, but then I think there's also an element that it gave them an out to focus on their careers.
Correct.
And they weren't bad parents. They're not bad people, either one of them. But it's dealing with, the title is very perfect because it's after Yang is not there to do something. How do you deal with that? And I was surprised. I guess I expected, not like a horror action thing, but I expected a little more skeevy things, a little more creepy. Not creepy, like scary, like
but like things like you didn't know that was happening.
Yeah, like there's an element of is certain things being recorded, and if it isn't recorded, and that goes into the AI, I think, of privacy and how much is not, which that unfolds some stuff, and then when you see the things that it unfolds, it's not the direction you think it's going to go, and it's like it's one of those movies though it's very slow.
It is slow.
It's a slow burn like life.
And you've got to listen and pay attention, because when they get into some of the technical stuff of what's going on with the Yang, then it leads you into, okay, there have been many generations of androids, and this is where we're at now. So you kind of have to pay attention to the tech stuff.
And there's even a whole mentality of not buying a new one, buying a used one, and how long has it been since it's been serviced, and it's an interesting take if you can invest in what they're telling you.
When I thought even that was interesting, because the people who bought the brand new ones were looking down on the people that bought the used ones.
It goes into the whole status
thing. But then it was interesting, you were mentioning like what was going on that the parents kind of ignored, because they're like, oh, Yang will take care of her. But it was something as simple as the little girl got up at night to get a drink of water. And she had never gone by herself, because Yang would always like be there with her, like help her get a drink of water. And her dad's like, what are you doing? She's like, I always get a drink of water. And Yang, can you get me a cup?
Yeah, and he's like, you've never asked us about a drink of water. He's like, well, Yang's always with me.
Yeah, so it was something, but then you start to see in your mind, this is how far apart
it's like
he
having
is
a
from
nanny.
His own child.
It was a nanny, but it was a nanny that was with you like a brother 24/7.
I know. My dad wanted to get us a nanny when we were little.
No doubt that.
And my mom was like, no way.
Which surprises me, because your mom would be more like, she could.
I know, but my mom was like, I don't want someone else raising my kid, which I'm surprised.
Your mom was just afraid your dad was doing it.
I don't think so. Anyways.
It's an interesting movie. It won't work for everybody.
No. Some people will be bored.
It's not one that I would say is a great movie. It's an interesting movie. It's got a lot of interesting messages and thought-provoking ideals on a life and cultures and everything else. But at the same time, it's not something that's super engaging all the time. So it can easily lose you.
Yeah. It's a talkie.
Yeah. So if you get in there to watch it, you have to kind of sit with it, let it kind of build, let it do what it
let it marinate.
And it's never exciting. It doesn't even have an ending that's super exciting. It's kind of an ending like life. It just is. When it's done, it's done.
But Colin Farrell's amazing.
Yeah, Colin Farrell's great in the movie. Colin Farrell's great in everything. I'm pretty sure we established this before we ever talked about it.
That's your man crush.
Colin Farrell can be in a bad movie, but he's still good. Colin Farrell.
He is good. Anyways, you should check it. I liked it.
It was good.
It was interesting. It's after Yang.
It's not one I would probably watch again. I don't think it's interesting enough to watch it a second time, but it's interesting enough to watch it one time.
Yeah. All right.
It's available now on Blu-ray and DVD.
Okay, here we go.
Which one are we hitting? Okay.
You guys.
So the next one is a new movie from Netflix. This time, The Man from Toronto, starring Kevin Hart and Woody Harrelson.
Yep.
And I'm going to tell you right off the bat, well, you probably kind of figured out that's an action comedy kind of thing. But if it seems like it's in the same vein of The Hitman's Bodyguard, it's from the same director. That's why. So it's Patrick Hughes, who did both The Hitman Bodyguard and The Hitman Bodyguard's Wife. So if you don't like either one of those movies, you might not like this movie either, because it's in that same.
It's the same style
action.
Comedy.
It could even be in the same world. It wouldn't be surprising if they suddenly cross paths.
Correct.
But once you want to tell everybody the premise?
So basically, Woody Harrelson is the Man from Toronto. And he is expected to show up at this cabin for a job.
He's I don't know if he's an assassin so much he's an
interrogator.
Yes, he makes people talk.
Okay. Well, Kevin Hart is taking his wife on a little weekend getaway to a cabin.
He is not the Man from Toronto.
But because he had low ink in his toner, he got the address wrong and showed up at the wrong cabin, and they think he's the Man from Toronto. And craziness ensues.
And the ink from the toner becomes a running gag in the whole movie.
And she's like that because it was a metaphor for how he treated the relationship.
Well, because
you ran out of ink. Like there's no toner. Like buy toner.
I still haven't got the drum for my.
I know,
upstairs.
But she was just.
The whole thing is it's said at the beginning of the movie. He's just trying to get rich quick scheme guy.
Yeah.
And not in the bad way. He's trying to find that thing in fitness that will stick and make him a lot of money. And so there's a lot of these really funny little infomercials at the beginning of the movie that he does, trying to find different things. And with his last one is non-contact shadow boxing, which is hilarious to watch, especially when he fights somebody that way. But yeah, so the madness ensues. What's interesting is it's a Netflix movie, and as some people might start looking at it like, oh, does Kevin Hart's power fall because he's now just on Netflix? His last movie was on Netflix, Fatherhood, as well. Both of them were due to the pandemic. They were both set to get theatrical releases. Fatherhood, they decided they sold the rights to Netflix to distribute it. This is also a Sony movie. They did the same thing. They ended up at the last minute. They sold it to Netflix, so it became a Netflix flick.
There you go.
But I thought the movie was hilarious. I mean,
I loved it, guys.
The action is really well done. It's a lot of it. There's a really great fight sequence at the end that's essentially Woody Harrelson fighting all these different assassins in a boxing gym. So there's weights and there's gym equipment and there's weapons and all kinds of stuff. And then there's Kevin Hart trying to fight. And it's really funny. And
it's funny.
They have great chemistry.
They do. They really do.
And it's not always good chemistry. It's the same chemistry Samuel Jackson and Ryan Reynolds have. It's
Correct.
the same. It's really
Correct.
the same movie. They could remake the same movie with the same two guys.
Yeah, that's fine.
But you get typical Kevin Hart and his high energy craziness. You get Woody Harrelson being the always awesome Woody Harrelson.
Yeah, I really liked it. I thought it was hilarious. I was cracking up all over the place. It's not going to be for everyone. If you're not into that kind of dumb, unbelievable comedy stuff.
If you don't like those other two movies or Kevin Hart, you will hate this movie.
Correct. I can't imagine anyone doesn't like Woody Harrelson.
You'd be surprised nowadays. There's somebody that's out there that don't like him.
But I do think there are people who don't like Kevin Hart.
There's a lot of people that don't like Kevin Hart.
I do. I like both of them.
Just like there's a lot of people that don't like Melissa McCarthy or Rebel Wilson.
I love her. I love her too.
I do too.
Anyways, I thought it was super fun and it's funny and there's a good story to it. There is a lot of heart. And yeah, it comes around
it's
full circle.
Stupid and not believable in any shape or form. But that's part of the part you let get over it. You just let it happen. And we've seen movies like this before. It's not breaking down the walls of the action genre, but it's a fun flick.
It's fun. That's the thing. It's fun.
And it works because of those two, because of their banter, because of their issues. And Woody Harrelson's character is not just your normal bad guy hitman character. He's got some depth to him. It's not a case of a guy who is bad who kind of starts finding good. There's some underlying things that are like, oh, this is what he was doing and why he did it. And so, and Kevin Hart, while he is bumbling and silly, he still has his hero moments, but they never suddenly try to make him a badass. So it makes it work. I found it fun. I love these kind of movies. So if you like either one of them, you should check it out.
There you go.
On the flicks. The Netflix.
Okay. Next.
Are you going to put next, or are you going to just keep scrolling through things that have nothing to do with us right now?
Okay, which one do we want to go to?
I don't care. Pick one.
You want to go here? Go on, go here.
I don't care.
Go here, one.
Somebody will probably talk about that one more, so why don't you go to the other one first? This one.
These were the two that came out this weekend, right?
Yes.
Okay. So, new this week in theaters was the new movie, The Black Phone.
Which is another pandemic movie we've been waiting forever.
I know, because I asked you like a few months ago, like, whatever happened to that movie, the creepy movie with Ethan Hawke?
Well, it kept getting advertised and it got bumped. And I saw somebody else went and saw it, and their post was a horribly promoted movie. And I'm like, this movie was not horribly promoted. This movie, they promoted the crap out of this movie.
And then it went away for a while.
Before the pandemic. And then they kept
back.
promoting it. And then you'd get a trailer here and there and a poster drop. And then they kept delaying it. Well, it's finally here, The Black Phone. It's directed by Scott Derrickson, who is the director of the first Doctor Strange movie. But also, before that, he was the director of Hellraiser Inferno. Not selling it. And Sinister, which is a way better movie than Hellraiser Inferno.
I like Hellraiser.
Which up until recently was considered the scariest movie of all time.
Sinister?
Through science theory studies of people watching it and taking the readings and how people reacted. So whatever that movie did and the series of movies they showed them, Sinister was
creepy.
So
because that thing came out of the projector at you.
Anyway, so The Black Phone.
I wasn't trying to do all that.
The Black Phone is a film that takes place in the 70s.
Love that.
And it's about a kidnapper they call the Grabber. Who's kidnapping children. And a young boy who is taken and his situation of trying to escape and what he goes through. And it's interesting because it's much like they did with It. It's a part horror film, part thriller, part coming of age teenage story.
Yeah.
Which is how It was, which is you're dealing with the kids and they're growing in their life. This case, it's the boy and his sister and their dad. They're dealing with the loss of their mother that had passed away. Yes. The dad's an alcoholic now, but it's because of, and he's mildly abusive. I say mildly because he doesn't hate the kids, but he also, because of his drinking, he's abusive.
Correct.
That doesn't justify being abusive. I'm just saying he's dealing with his depression and he hasn't been able to let it go. And so there's some moments that are kind of cringeworthy that you're like, oh, this guy needs to die. But he kind of gets a redemption arc, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
Not fully.
Not really.
He's still a horrible person that needs a lot of help. But that's kind of a secondary sub-story that's not really part of the major part of the movie. We're really dealing with Ethan Hawke, who plays the grabber, in this situation.
By the way, he is so creepy in this movie. He has a series of these masks that he wears throughout the movie, and they are just so creepy. By the way,
You do not see Ethan Hawke's face through the entire movie until what, the last scene, and it's a quick glimpse.
And barely.
You see it just long enough for him to do this, which I loved, because somebody of Ethan Hawke's status could have easily said, look, they need to see my face at least once.
Yeah.
Because that's how a lot of actors are. They don't like their faces covered.
Correct.
And the cool thing about the mask is it's a full piece mask that the bottom half, it reminded me of stop motion animation, where the bottom half changes, right? Because the top piece comes off, so we can change it to.
Well, he can do.
There's one with a frown. There's one with a big smile. There's one that's just a thing. There's one with no mouth, and so he can take this piece off, so you see his eyes at some point. Other times there's another piece that connects, and it just. But the mask is the mood he has when you see him.
Correct.
And there's never an explanation of the mask and why he wears it, which I loved. There's no
explanation for any of this.
It's not necessary.
And I think there's no explanation for the boy, his sister.
There's a supernatural element to it.
There's no explanation for him.
I'm not going to spoil it, but if you've seen the trailer, there's a phone there, and a phone comes into play, and there's a supernatural element that I honestly thought might mess up the film. When I saw the trailer, I'm like, interesting. And then as we get through the first act, which is setting up the characters and the situations before the main boy is taken, I'm like, oh man, this when we go in this other route, it's going to really mess this movie up. I was concerned about that.
Yeah.
But it works to perfection.
It is really, really good.
It's such a great, great movie. This might end up on one of my favorite movies this year.
I was gonna say it might be for me too.
Because it's dark, it's creepy. I never found it scary, but I know y'all had some jump moments.
There was a few jump scares, but I think overall it's more of like the psychological thriller thing where you're like, what is this kid gonna do? And then the phone rings, and that to me is more creepy than the guy that grabbed me.
Right.
Because there is a phone, and clearly you look at the phone, and the cord is disconnected from the wall. And I'm like, oh, hell
And there's a series of, and this is one of usually the downfalls of this genre, there's a series of really bad decisions and stupid things. But for once, these bad decisions are on purpose that lead to a bigger thing that is genius.
Yes, it all comes together. And one thing happens and I'm like, oh, that didn't work. And something I'm like, oh, that didn't work either. But
they're doing certain things and you're like, why? That's not going to go anywhere. That's
exactly.
Stupid.
Especially in the 70s with the way certain things were made and built.
Well, even that, there's a digging a hole situation. I'll just say that. And you're like, this hole's not going to go anywhere. It's not going to accomplish anything. Somebody's going to see it. But then at the same time, suddenly everything that he does, he just stops doing it.
Yeah.
And you're like,
I was like, come on.
There's never a discussion, hey, I'm not doing this anymore. There's never a discussion that didn't work. There's a lot of those elements that feels like the movie is incomplete until it comes together and you realize, holy crap. It was intentionally creating this entire situation and moment that comes together in a climactic / anticlimactic way, but it's so clever, it's genius.
Yeah. This movie's really good, and I think being set in the 70s made it a little bit more creepy.
Yeah, because we've talked about the time in the 70s and 80s growing up was both a lot freer and way scarier.
We just didn't realize how scary it was.
Yeah, because people were all the kids were outside.
You were just running around.
I remember walking to Tom Thumb and going down, 60s to
you
Broadway.
A long way.
Broadway, like 4 miles to go to the grocery store and hang out, and your parents didn't know where you're at a lot of times running around outside, and
not at all.
And creepy people would walk up and nobody noticed, and and you didn't have cell phones, you didn't have cameras to call for help, you didn't have any of that kind of stuff, and it was just interesting. I also really liked a lot of the kidnappings that are early on. You never see the kidnapping.
Correct.
It's like the van shows up, you see a silhouette of the person, you see the kid, and then it fades to black.
Correct.
And so you don't see a lot of violence. If you're concerned about seeing kids being killed and all this stuff, none of that's there. There's a lot of implications.
Well,
there is some blood.
There is,
but it's not a gory film either.
But it's interesting because in the 70s and early 80s, it would have been so easy to just grab a kid.
Yeah.
It really was, because we were all outside. We were nowhere near home. Like
Right.
you were saying, there were no phones. People were like yelling, "Hey!"
And everybody talked to everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, like we had the stranger
know.
danger. I remember when the stranger danger thing started, and we were always told you don't talk to strangers and blah blah blah. Every kid talked to every stranger. And,
you talk to everybody.
You know, some guy would drive up in your van, you know, a van, and be like, "You want some candy?" Like, hell yeah, I want some candy. You know, it's like, you know, it was, you know, you don't take candy from strangers, because our generation kept taking candy from strangers.
We took it, and that we grew up when there were razor blades in your candy, and that whole thing. So damn. I mean, who knows? We survived.
There's that mentality, and there's just something about putting anything in the 70s and 80s. It just gives it a different feel.
Yeah, it does.
You know, because it's way more believable to watch a movie like this and see the kids riding their bikes everywhere, or suddenly leaving their house. Like, there's a sequence where the little girl's on her bike trying to find something out by herself.
Why was her dad like?
And you're like, that would never happen. But then you think back then, oh, they would definitely happen. She would just, people could leave all the time.
And they just left her house. Like, her dad didn't know because her dad was drunk.
Yeah.
But I mean,
so, I love this movie. It was so good. I'm glad to see how well it's doing. It was, I think, like number 3. Maybe 4, but it made more than its budget.
That's good.
So it exceeded. I think it did more than they thought it was going to do.
Which is good. I'm glad.
I think it had like an $18 million budget. It made like $23 million or something like that.
That's good. You know what? It was. Look it up
but it's not terrifying.
It made
but
$23 million.
I think the elements that are really scary about this movie is the realism
real life
of the kidnapping. There's a visuals that are like, there's a game that he keeps trying to play that is some of the creepiest, scariest stuff. And Ethan Hawke never does anything to any of these kids that we see, but he's insanely creepy about it. Like, you can imagine what
I just like he.
But you can imagine what he would do and what he's probably done to previous ones.
Mm-hmm.
But he never does it in the movie, which makes it scary because your own mind starts creating it.
Because he was just talking to him. I'm like, oh, he's a creeper. He likes little boys, and I'm like,
Yeah, but your mind is creating all this stuff. They don't show you anything in the movie.
But he's like, I'll never do anything to hurt you unless you want me to. And I was like,
right. That's what I'm telling you.
Is
he's saying things to create creepiness in your mind,
but he doesn't.
And you're probably making it worse in your mind than the movie would have actually been, which makes it so much more genius.
And there's just moments where you can tell he's like trying to bait this little boy to try to run away so he can catch him and hit him.
Yeah. It's like he wants to do crap to him, and those shots are some of the creepiest. And there's even an element. And we'll move on because I don't want spoilers, but there's even an element of realism to that they do that you don't see in this kind of movie.
Ethan Hawke is just so good, you guys.
Yeah, and then the big payoff at the end, kind of the twist, it's not a super big thing, but it's such a small thing, but it's cool. In fact, I love this movie. This movie is so good.
And in a way,
this movie I would watch again numerous times.
I agree. This movie did kind of bring me back to me and my brother riding our bikes. Like, we were always together outside riding our bikes, just, you know, we were not where we were supposed to be, of course, because we just rode all over the neighborhood.
And I'm sure I was worse than you were.
My brother would go off like to this swimming hole thing that was gross, dirty.
We had the field where we played football. We were always at the convenience store playing games. I remember creepy dudes at the convenience store that would give us quarters to play games. You know, and the guy that working at the convenience store was like, "Leave them boys alone, get out of here."
Good.
And then he was a little creepy.
They were trying to groom you.
Probably.
Now we know.
I've been waiting forever to get groomed. Look at me now. This is what happened when you don't get groomed.
Anyways, this movie was really good.
I really dug it.
I recommend. There you go.
Check out The Black Phone in theaters now. Good job, Scott Derrickson. I hope you and Ethan Hawke get together again for a third film. They might have done more than 2, and I just don't remember offhand.
Now we go to the big movie of the week.
So I want to ask you. So next one we're going to talk about is Baz Luhrmann's Elvis, starring Tom Hanks and Austin Butler.
Yes.
Now, before we talk about the movie itself, I have a couple things I do want to say. First of all, I want you to tell me, what do you think the #1 movie of the weekend was?
I want to believe it's Elvis.
Okay, but what do you think it is?
I want to believe it's Elvis.
Okay. As of the last reading, it may have changed something. Don't look it up. Let's let the people look it up them damn selves. As of the last reading, it was tied for #1, still with Top Gun Maverick.
Oh my gosh, Top Gun. Come on,
Top Gun has now crossed $1 billion, making it the highest grossing Tom Cruise movie of all time.
That's because it's a good movie.
It may end up on my top.
It is a good movie.
Top 10 of the year as well.
I'm not a super huge Tom Cruise because I think he's a little bit cray-cray.
Oh, he's crazy.
But that movie is good.
That movie is great.
And it makes the first one better, like you were saying.
The other thing I want to say about it is I am not a fan of Elvis.
No, you're not.
No, don't understand the appeal.
You don't like the music?
Not a fan of the music. I know the music. Some of it's better than others. When he's really just singing normal, I think it's better than when he's doing all of it, whatever. I do have the issue of him stealing from the black people and their music thing.
Okay, well we'll discuss in a
I know,
minute.
and some of that's the adulthood in me as I got through. It's just like my issues of Beauty and the Beast and bestiality and Stockholm syndrome and all that.
Yeah. Beauty and the Beast is a little pervy.
Also, the underage marriage thing. There's a lot of things that just bothered me about Elvis, but biggest thing is not I don't hate the man. I've just never been a fan. I've never understood. I'm a firm believer that if Elvis popped up today, he would never make it big. I think he was just a product of the time.
Okay.
And I think because he was doing something in someone that nobody had ever seen before, that's why he became so major. And then he was taken down by the Beatles essentially because when they popped up, his star power.
Well, and he loved the Beatles.
He did. So that being said, that's very important for you to know.
Okay.
Because this movie is brilliant.
Yay! I'm glad.
I really love this movie. I'm a huge fan of biopics of anybody. Like I love history. I love those stuff. So I love watching someone. Like I hate the Notorious B.I.G. as much as I am a hip hop fan. I love the movie Notorious because you're seeing his story and his history. This movie is just so good, and the biggest reason I like this movie, well, there's two major reasons. One, Austin Butler is brilliant in this movie.
Very good.
But it's because it's told mostly from the perspective of Colonel Tom Parker.
Correct.
Which I thought gave it an interesting twist. Which I know other people have not liked that.
Really?
They hated that that Colonel Tom Parker was narrating the movie. They hated that it wasn't just a straightforward Elvis movie. And it is a straightforward Elvis movie.
It is.
But it's being told from the person's perspective that basically created Elvis, made Elvis who he was, and then destroyed Elvis all at the same time.
Mm-hmm. And I think
you, on the other hand,
I am a fan.
Massive Elvis fan.
I am a fan. I'm Blue Hawaii. I am all these things because my dad was a fan. And my dad has Elvis hair.
Oh, he does. And let me tell you, as a good husband, I have also taken my lovely bride to Graceland.
We've been to Graceland. We've been to Tupelo, Mississippi.
and it was my idea to go to the Mississippi thing.
Yes,
we were there for something else, and it was about an hour out of the way.
It was.
And you go, no, we don't. I said, honey, you are a fan. You need to go there.
Thank you. And it was so
we were
cool.
There. And I enjoyed Graceland, and I enjoyed that because I enjoy seeing histories of stuff.
And for me, knowing the history a little bit about it, I think it was important to tell the story of Colonel Parker. Because he wasn't even Colonel Parker.
I know, but you can't call him anything else.
Colonel Tom Parker. You have to. But I think it's important to tell the story.
He was not a Colonel, a Tom, or a Parker.
No, that is a major part of who Elvis is.
If you know anything about Elvis, there was no Elvis without mentioning Colonel Tom Parker.
He was there at every junction of his life and everything he did, good or bad, whichever way he steered him. He is a major person there.
But I think Elvis truly loved that man for the longest time until he realized the betrayal.
Yeah, I mean, and so it's a major part of the story. I don't think you can tell an Elvis story without telling that part.
And we've never, to my knowledge, there's been no movie regarding Elvis that focused on the Tom Parker. He was just, it was always the Elvis story with Tom Parker was there.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know if there's really been a big Elvis movie outside of the 1979 John Carpenter TV movie with Kurt Russell. I think that was the only one, to my knowledge. There could be other ones. I didn't jump out to watch any of them again because I'm not an Elvis fan. But the trailers to this movie sucked me in. I am a Baz Luhrmann fan.
Yeah.
If the movie didn't look, do you know what he's directed before?
I know he's the Moulin Rouge guy, right?
Yes, he also did The Great Gatsby with Leonardo DiCaprio.
That's why it was very.
This movie looked a lot like The Great Gatsby.
Yeah.
He did that. He did Moulin Rouge. He did the Romeo and Juliet with Leonardo DiCaprio, which I hate Romeo and Juliet, but I love that movie.
That one's kind of psychedelic.
That movie is an acid trip.
It really is.
It doesn't make any sense because it's modern day and they're still doing the original dialogue, but they're with guns. But why do you think that I even watched that movie in the first place?
Because Leonardo DiCaprio.
No, I was not a fan of Leonardo DiCaprio
really?
at the time.
Who's in it?
John Leguizamo was in that movie.
Oh,
remember,
wow,
he's one of the Spanish guy, the fancy guns and.
Wow, I don't even remember that. It's been so long.
That's why I watched that movie at that time.
I've seen it once and thought it was like too much. And
I've only seen it maybe twice because I think I watched it once. And I'm like, I have to revisit this movie, and I watched it again. And I'm like,
I like the original Romeo and Juliet from like the 60s.
I think it was further back than
50s
that.
or 60s, whatever that
was. I know, the one they showed in school.
Yes, that one.
Yeah, I've watched it.
Anyways.
But I love the structure of this movie. I love the visuals of this movie. I love the way they told the story. And it may get bumped, but I'm gonna tell you this too. This might end up on one of my best of the year as well.
It's mine, like, for sure.
And this is, like I said, this is coming from somebody who is not a fan of Elvis.
Well, I am a fan, and I'm gonna tell you, I loved this movie so much. And Austin Butler is amazing. I mean, the only thing I know him from is like Switched at Birth and Shannara.
I think he was a Disney person too.
Oh, but no, I remember he did Broadway. That's why.
Yeah. Well, I know he'd been singing, but I think I saw somebody post. I thought he did something Disney, but I could be wrong.
I don't know. Well, it was to the point.
I don't know how much of his makeup is prosthetics. I don't know how much of it's just his face.
So I think some of it's prosthetic. He mentioned I watched the 2020 special. You fell asleep, but
no, I didn't fall asleep. I was asleep
when
you started
when I started watching. Some of it was prosthetics. The makeup. He said the makeup part was amazing. And then they did have to put a little weight to it.
All the makeup was amazing because
it was. Oh my gosh, Tom Hanks!
Like, you can't not know that's Tom Hanks because his eyes or whatever, but you still buy into him.
Yeah.
And is Tom Hanks just playing real life people now?
I guess
he's now played Mr. Rogers. He played Walt Disney. He played this guy.
Captain Sully.
Yeah, he was Captain Sully, whatever his name is.
Sully.
Thank you. You messed me up. He played the guy from this I'm the Captain Now.
I'm the Captain Now.
He's playing like all these real life.
But you know what? That's okay. But I'm going to tell you, in that 2020 special, Priscilla was there with Austin, and she's like, she didn't realize until the second time she watched it that she's like, is that him singing?
Yeah.
Or are they playing a soundtrack? And it was him singing.
Yeah.
Like, he learned, and you told me on the other show, he learned all the different iterations.
Yeah, because throughout Elvis's time, his life, he talked differently.
Mm-hmm.
There's young Elvis that had a little more of the draw to him, his countryness. Then he got to big Elvis, where he was not big, but famous Elvis, where he had a little more of the sexuality, the straightforward Elvis voice we know. And then he got older, he was a little more mumbly.
Yeah.
You know, because he was on the drugs and the issues and his weight gain.
All that.
If you watch that interview, he does all three of those voices on the show.
It's amazing.
And just kind of shows. It's very short, but
this kid's amazing.
Let me tell you, you can be impressed enough by his performance of the voice and the walk. Like, there's moments in this movie that's hard to tell which one is Elvis and which one is Austin Butler, because there are a couple very cool moments I thought was genius.
Yes.
That they're playing him performing, and then they hope the real Elvis performance next to it, and it doesn't distract you because you can't tell it's different. Well, other than the film quality, that's why you know it's older.
And I was telling you, they took some random, very old footage of Elvis, and that this kid took the time to learn how to do the thing and how to do this, and if I can dream, like how many times Elvis swings his hand.
Well, that's the next part of what I was about to say is. Because
I've watched it so many times.
It's impressive enough to learn especially for someone like Elvis, who's very specific in the way he spoke. All of us do an Elvis impression. There's not a person on this planet that has not tried to do an Elvis impression. And it's always, thank you very much. And I don't think they use that in the movie.
He did it once.
Did he? Okay.
Which
one I thought was smart, because
he's like,
that is the cliche thing that if somebody acts like Elvis, the first thing they do is they cock the lip and they go, thank you very much. You know, and it's all horrible impressions. But it's impressive enough for him to pull off the mannerisms, the visuals, the speaking tone, but more impressive that he pulls off the performance side, because Elvis was very specific and chaotic in the way he performed. Like, it harkens back to Bohemian Rhapsody on Taron Egerton, or whatever, however you say his name, playing Freddie Mercury in a very specific way he moves. But even that is not as chaotic.
That was Elton John, babe.
I'm sorry. Yeah, Remy Malek. Sorry. That's what I meant.
I actually remember people's names.
But that's both of them.
They like embody physically.
But this guy, Elvis, had chaos on stage. Like, to match his movements is near impossible to make it the same.
He did it.
And there wasn't a moment that he wasn't doing something that, one, I'm like, that is the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. But also, I remember seeing that.
Yeah.
Because even though I'm not a fan, my parents were fans, or my mom at least was, and I know the story, and I've watched documentaries, and I've seen all the highlights of, the picture of Elvis performing the Christmas fest with the big red lights of Elvis behind him, and the movies and the different things. And I like that we didn't spend a lot of time discussing, his capes and his outfits.
No, they just show it. We just keep going.
And the most genius shot to me in that whole movie, do you know what it is?
Which one? The capes?
The cape transition?
Yeah.
There's a moment where he does this on the stage, and he's just like this, and it's kind of like
every
he
night.
stays in that pose, and then it does a quick flash, and it's just his clothes are changing
like
colors.
Every night it's a different cape or whatever. It's cool.
So it really basically just says, hey, don't forget he does all this. Now let's move on.
Yeah, and I like that we do move through his life pretty swiftly, at a pretty good pace.
And the movie is almost 3 hours.
It's long, but it keeps moving, and I appreciated that. Like, we start and we keep moving, and we get through his life fairly quickly, which I did appreciate because there is a lot there.
Well, they left out his whole karate world.
Oh,
if I had any complaint, and here's why I wanted to say it. I don't know if you've ever seen his karate stuff. Elvis, I believe, trained with Ed Parker in Kempo and had a black belt, in theory.
We saw his uniform with the
yes,
Graceland.
He had a karate uniform that looked like his stage outfit. It had the big bell bottoms, and it was very Elvis. It was not, only Elvis could take from a class and not wear the uniform everybody else wears. He had his own uniform, and it's the most ridiculous looking uniform ever.
Let me see if I find the
Are you going to try to find it, throw it up there? Well, just type in on the regular search of Elvis karate. You probably find a picture of him in karate. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe Bill Superfoot Wallace was a bodyguard to Elvis for a while.
Oh, that's cool.
For a long time.
That's so cool.
It was either him or Ed Norton, not Ed Norton, Richard Norton. I think both of them may have. Anyway,
there's some of the capes.
But the movie, the structure of the movie, it does, like you said, it keeps moving. It goes through Jungle Room. It goes through his whole life. It does touch on the drugs. The thing I like the most is, despite us all knowing that Colonel Tom Parker is a horrible human being and everything he did, which I don't think, going by this movie, I don't think he was a horrible human being at the beginning. I think he got greedy. And then his own debts and his own personal issues ended up making him, and the fear of being nothing without him, I think made him more of a horrible person.
Yeah.
That's
the thing.
Had Elvis watched the Straight Outta Compton movie, he wouldn't have fallen for all this. Because it's the same story. And it's sad how many musical groups have gone through this same crap.
Yeah. And I think the other thing that's interesting to me, and that we get more in this movie, and I hope you understand the stealing black music.
Oh, no, I understand it. He was trying to be respectful of it.
He was sharing music he loved.
I know.
But we were in segregation, so they're like, why are you singing colored music?
Yes. I get that.
So in a way, he was trying to break down those boundaries.
He was.
Those barriers.
He grew up in the ghetto, and he was around the people, and he was singing the music he knew. And I know people talk about all the time, and like I said earlier, about him capitalizing and taking the black music, but it was... especially with this movie, you get a little more insight, at least, to what they give us.
Yeah, where he grew up, it's what he knew.
Yeah, and it was about his homage to doing
the music that he loved.
Yeah, like there's a song. Oh, what is the song that she's singing at the beginning? That he's hearing, and then he sings later on. The lady is singing out the window.
Oh, the lady, I didn't know. Hound Dog.
Hound Dog.
Yeah.
She's singing a different rendition, probably the original version of Hound Dog.
Yeah.
And then it circles back, and it makes that moment way more impactful, because it's kind of a moment where he's trying to be himself and not be the marketed Elvis, and he sings that song because that's the song he first remembers hearing at that moment. I like that they do a quick touch base of his childhood, bringing in Captain Marvel, aka Shazam's influence, which you'd be like, what? It's there. Which also circled the church stuff. There was an interesting balance of every element without it ever being too overshadowed and too convoluted. There's no way you could ever tell this man or anybody else like him's story effectively without 4 or 5 movies.
Correct.
But this one is balanced, and it's balanced in a way that it never tries to make Elvis anybody but who he was.
Correct.
And never tries to make Colonel Tom Parker anybody than who he was.
Correct.
It's like, even though it's Parker telling the story and narrating and doing these different things, they could have easily tried to, this is a movie really trying to make him look better, and they could have also sugarcoated Elvis's bad stuff.
Correct.
But they didn't. It kind of walks that thin line.
And I think that's the thing that we both came out saying. It's like everyone was flawed. Yeah. And they said that. And even Priscilla says in the 2020 special, she's like, he was flawed. We all were. And she appreciates that the movie isn't trying to sugarcoat it, isn't trying to make anyone look bad. It's just, it is what it is. It's
Elvis.
the history.
Yeah.
And I think when you hear Lisa Marie and her granddaughter, they appreciate kind of setting the record straight on the segregation issues, the black music thing and all that. And I think even at the end, very end of the movie, when Eminem does a special and he's saying something about I'm like Elvis with the whole
believe it or not, Eminem has a song with CeeLo Green in the soundtrack. It's on the credits.
Because I mean,
she didn't know this,
he
and
was
I told
accused
her,
of the same thing.
Yeah, she didn't know this,
music.
and I said, hold on. I said, you want to sit to the credits? Eminem has a new song. She goes, what?
Heck yeah, I love Eminem.
But did you notice a couple times in the movie they played some hip hop stuff?
They did. That's the other thing I really
and it shouldn't have worked, and it
this
worked.
Soundtrack was so amazing because
Yeah.
it wasn't just Elvis. I mean, there's BB King. There's a lot of soul music and jazz, and then hip hop throughout. I loved it. I'm telling you, this is my favorite movie of the year so far.
I also like.
I'm gonna watch this thing 10 times.
I like that characters like BB King became a very small minor character, but a very important character because he was like his confidant. Was it Little Richard?
Little Richard showed up.
Hold on, I posted on here.
He was so good.
Where's it at? I can tell
Whoever
you.
that guy was.
I can tell you. Hold on,
He was amazing.
So for casting the other people, they cast singer-songwriter Yola as Sister Rosetta Thorpe.
Yes.
Tharpe. Model Alton Mason played Little Richard. Somebody from Austin, Texas. Oh, Gary Clark Jr. played Arthur Crudup. And an artist, Shanka Dakura, is Willie Mae Big Mama Thornton.
Big Mama, you have to have Big Mama Thornton.
You know, and
that's where we're coming from.
It's just one of those movies that there's an impact. I don't think, love him or hate him, this is another one of those that you don't have to be a fan of the music. The performances are great and they're entertaining. And as much as I'm not a fan of the music, you can't have this movie without the performances. His performances were impressive.
He better win something.
Yeah, this is my fear. And I always fear when I see a movie like this, when it's this early in the year, that it gets forgotten in the award ceremony. But if there is no possible way,
there's no way
that this movie should be getting ignored by the time the award ceremony. We're halfway through the year with everything that's come out. If this movie is ignored, it's a travesty.
I agree. Both of them are amazing.
Because and Austin Butler, I know he's been in stuff. He's not new to the scene. But this is the movie that's going to make him a superstar.
I agree.
I can't imagine that the day this movie premiered, that his agent was not getting phone calls left and right from people.
I mean, and I liked him in his other little stuff, but he's amazing in this. And just knowing that he spent like the year and a half, 2 years preparing and really trying not to become Elvis, but to learn and to figure it out. And I was telling you, during this 2020 special, he said the moment he really connected. So what he did is he put a timeline of Elvis's life all around his apartment from birth to death, like year by year, what was happening, what was going on, the songs and everything. And when he realized that Elvis's mom passed away when Elvis was 23, Austin Butler's mom passed away when he was 23. And he's like, that's it. He's like, that's when he connected, because Austin Butler shares a story that for a while after that, sometimes he would dream that his mom was there or calling him, and he'd wake up and then realize she's dead. He's like, surely Elvis had that, because she was the most important person in Elvis's life. So he's crying. Tom Hanks is crying while he's telling the story on this interview. And he's like, that's when he connected. And that's when he's like, Unchained Melody, it has to be about his mom. It's not really a love song to him. It's about the love of his mom. So I'm like, oh my gosh, Austin Butler, you're tearing me up inside.
I believe it was Tom Hanks and Austin Butler in this. And there was an interview that I saw, and somebody was like, Tom Hanks, let's talk to you about this movie. And he goes, let's not. Let's talk about Austin Butler about this movie, because this is very much his movie. And it was that doesn't happen often, but it's always interesting when you see somebody who is a superstar legend in the business. Tom Hanks is not just a famous actor. He's an icon at this point. He's up there with the De Niro's and the Pacinos and stuff. He's not in the gangster category, but he's in,
he could be.
I know, but he did in Road to Perdition.
Well, did you see him defend his wife?
Oh yeah. He thought he whipped that dude's ass. But when you see somebody say, forget about me, this is the person you should be talking to, that is like a humbling thing of knowing what that person did, knowing the craft and understanding what they did on screen, and saying, look, I saw that, and Butler seems like a very private person.
Yeah.
You can see when you see him interview, he's very kind of, he reminds me of Adam Sandler, because he's still new at this too.
Well, and very much too, if you have Priscilla Presley telling you that this was amazing. I couldn't tell who was singing.
Yeah, because in that, I saw that part of it when he's like, "That's the best review I could ever
He's
receive."
like, I don't care about anything else.
Yeah,
that's it. So
this I can honestly tell you, never in my days would I've ever thought that I would have said I love something that Elvis was attached to.
I love Elvis. I'm gonna go watch all his movies.
I recognize. I'm not a fan of the Beatles either. I don't get that appeal
but that
either.
special was amazing too.
That special is amazing. But here's my thing. There's a difference between not being a fan and not recognizing what they did.
Correct.
I refuse to call Elvis the king of rock and roll.
He didn't want
because
to be the king.
I know he didn't, but he was barely rock and roll. But if you look at it at that time period, he was. But I always thought he was more blues and soul than anything.
Yeah.
But
little
I recognize what he did at the time for not only the changing of music, the changing of the perception of the performer, and obviously the black culture and things that gave them more recognition.
Well, and he was like the first kind of like superstar in the music
thing.
Yeah,
a lot of stuff was changed,
crossing over between what they would call Negro music and country. Like he was doing that, and he did movies, and he was the first to have that Vegas residency. I mean, he did so many like firsts.
And again, it's all stuff that's just commonplace now.
And it's just sad because it's in his mind. He's like, no one's ever going to remember me. And I'm like, oh, but see, that's it's so crazy, guys.
The best line in this entire movie to me.
This movie got me in the feels.
It was also a case of there's so many historical events happen through his timeline. We all have major historical events that have happened in our time, but there's ones that, like we have 9/11, we have the space shuttle that exploded, we have, so many things that have happened, and they were major. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But there's things like Martin Luther King being shot, and there's Kennedy's being shot, and in this one it wasn't. Was it Bobby?
It was Bobby.
Bobby Kennedy,
because he was talking about the other shooting.
Yeah, which I thought was
we need to come together, and then they shot him too.
What I found interesting that they did in there, like. They even throw in the Manson murders and these different things that happen, but they're not focal points to the story.
Yeah.
They're like, this is happening. It affected this moment. Seeing him, like he was very obviously affected by the Martin Luther King situation. Yes. But what I found interesting was it started, those catalysts were also starting to see the separation between him and Tom Parker, because at one part, there's a scene that's in the trailer too, where he says, we got to get back to the performing. This has nothing to do with us, because the revelation is they're white people and we're not part of this, and this is, and he's like, it has everything to do with us.
Exactly.
And it's that simple line that shows his feeling, his character, whether he really said that or not. It tells you, even as a society, that all this has to do with us.
Correct.
It's not just because of that person or the one person, or you see it on the news and you're not there. Like we all put our head in the sand and be like, I don't care who's the president. I don't care who's this. It doesn't. My life has never changed when a new president came in.
Yeah.
But it still affects everyone.
And I think because
at this point,
if you think about it and if you research it, Elvis was pivotal in the civil rights movement. Want to be or not to be, but he was, because he was bringing black music over here. He was known to visit black clubs on Beale Street, and they were watching him.
Yeah.
The government was watching him because they're like, you can't do that. There's segregation.
Well,
laws.
There's a moment too that it's not a throwaway scene. It's just a simple concert scene where his whole purpose became drowning out a Klan rally or Nazi rally or whatever it was that they were protesting, and it was a government related thing.
So Elvis is having a concert here, and it said 3 miles away there's a white supremacist meeting. And he's like, oh, heck no. And so he starts he's singing Hound Dog or whatever.
And he was singing louder than their
he's like, if you're looking for trouble, you came to the right place. Like, hell yeah.
And it was another NWA type moment of, don't you do this. It's one of my favorite tunes where he's like, if you shake a single finger on stage. So he gets up there and he starts doing this. So he's performing. I'm like.
But I'm just telling you, he was pivotal to all of this. Yeah. And I think now we don't think that because we're so far removed from that time, that we're not even thinking about, or the big things that he did, like you said, they're commonplace now.
Well, and it's also a perfect example of the mentality of what we want celebrities to do is use their platform to speak out against injustices and speak out against things that are wrong and do things, make things better for people. But then there's the other half, people want you to just shut up and sing.
Yeah, and he was like, no, and he remembered, who was it that told him, BB King or whoever? He's like, if you can't say something, sing. And that's why the song "If I Can Dream."
Because he said, because the one guy was like, you need to make a speech, you make a statement. They're like, Elvis don't make statements. The Parker says this.
Yeah, Colonel
So
Tom
Elvis sang a
Parker.
song.
So that's why he did If I Can Dream, because that was directly from Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech. So he well, if I can dream of a better world when we can walk hand in hand. So he sang this song, and that was his statement. And he's like, thank you.
Crying.
Good night. I love the 68 special, you guys. I've watched it so many times.
This movie, I like I said, I never thought I'd admit this, but it's such a great movie.
This is my number one.
It is a great movie, whether you're a fan or not.
Let me stop gushing over it, because I am going to cry.
We can keep going because she is a fan.
I am a huge
But let
fan.
me tell you this, actually visiting Graceland, visiting his home, knowing the existence of all this stuff actually enhances the movie, because we're sitting there like, hey, we've been in that room.
Yeah, it's like
and, and we're laughing like when he goes to the one room where he's watching his entertainment, his expensive entertainment, and they're all like 35-inch televisions, like a whole wall of them. I'll never forget going to Graceland, and they're like, this is Elvis's
TV room.
His TV room. They had the top of the line, and I'm walking around like,
wow, that's
these TVs are sad, but then you got to think of the 60s, 70s when he had it was probably expensive.
I mean, it was amazing.
Like I had this TV when I was 13.
Anyways, check it out. It's in theaters now. Go make it number one. Let's beat Tom Cruise. Probably won't, I'm sure.
Anyway,
but it's amazing.
It is an excellent
really
movie.
Good, so.
Fan or otherwise, I'll be the first to admit it. I loved it.
There you go. Thanks, babe.
I can admit things.
Well, I loved it. It's my number one.
I know you did.
All right.
I'm not gonna lie. Going into watching, I was
you
like,
had no interest.
No. I had interest, but it was like, if we had not saw it, and I saw it on TV at home later, I'd been like, that's fine.
Oh no, I'm glad.
But I also knew we could not miss this movie because this was for you.
I was so excited. Okay. Okay.
All right.
Moving on. What do you got over there?
Oh, Blu-ray and whatever.
The Blu-ray and the disc.
This week's another kind of small week. The new Firestarter movie coming out. If you want to deal with that, go ahead. Harlem Nights with Eddie Murphy and Richard Pryor is getting the Blu-ray release. I don't know if it's a remake or re-release, or if this is the first time. It doesn't really say. One of my favorite movies, True Romance, with Christian Slater and Rosanna Arquette and Val Kilmer as Elvis.
Oh.
Remember he's in the bathroom and he's talking to him. You get just kind of a. Yeah. He's talking to trying to hype him up. It's actually he's called the Mentor. He's not called Elvis, but it's clearly it's Val Kilmer, but he's playing Elvis.
There's also Bubba Hotep. I mean, there's so many Elvis things.
I know that, but he's actually playing Elvis because he's obsessed with Elvis in this movie. Written by Quentin Tarantino. Anyway, Fantastic Beasts: The Secrets of Dumbledore is coming to Blu-ray and 4K
it's
as well.
Okay. It was okay.
It wasn't good.
Well.
Boomerang is getting the Blu-ray treatment with Eddie Murphy and Halle Berry and somebody else. I think that's pretty much it. Okay. That's all the moderately large things.
Coming out Wednesday on Netflix is a movie called Beauty. It is a story, it says, of a young Black gifted girl who struggles to maintain her voice and identity after she's offered a recording contract. Beware. It's got Sharon Stone and some other people, so I don't know anything about this, but Netflix, Wednesday. Then it's already July this weekend. Can you believe it? The best month of the year, birthday month for me.
Nobody cares about July.
Coming out on Friday on Hulu is a movie called The Princess. It's about, it's a historical drama. It's a princess who refuses to get married to the guy that she's betrothed to because she thinks he's a crazy person. So she runs away, but then's kidnapped and drama ensues. And then really the only other big thing that comes out is this little thing called Minions, The Rise of Gru. It's coming out nationwide. I know you're excited about the Minions. I'm sure our child is too. There's lots of good voices in this one. Basically, it's little Gru, and we see how he was as a child.
Yeah, I think what they did is instead of making another Despicable Me movie, they made a second Minions movie. I think it's the second one. Yeah. But then it's focusing on little Gru and I guess his connection into the Minions and their rise. Yeah. But I'm not only excited because I think those movies are hilarious. I'm also excited because Dolph Lundgren's in it. Yeah. Jean-Claude Van Damme is in it. Yep. Jean-Claude Van Damme plays someone named Jean-Claude. No. Clawed.
Oh my gosh.
It's got a great cast. Michelle Yeoh.
Henson, Michelle Yeoh, Julie Andrews. Why did she do this? I don't know. Steve Carell, Dolph Lundgren, Russell Brand.
The question is, why wouldn't she do this?
I don't know, man. We got the main Kevin Stewart and Bob. So our Minions, Kevin Stewart and Bob. Kevin.
Steve Carell's back. Russell Brand's back.
Kevin.
So. Yeah.
So, anyways, that's what's happening at the theater.
All right, and we got some variety this time with our giveaways.
Oh, here, let me put them on the screen for
Hold on, I
you.
need to grab this because I need to show you what it looks like.
Okay.
Where's that? Why isn't it over here?
I don't know where you're looking.
I accidentally throw it in here? No. Uh-oh.
Oh.
I can't find it. Would you reach over there? Down there. Grab Aquaman.
Okay.
The
I see
King
it.
of Atlantis.
Yep.
So we have our giveaways. First one is the Ant-Man movie I told you about, Ant-Man the Awakening. We have copies of that. I don't know why I didn't grab the other one. We still have a couple of copies of Row 19. We have a copy of it here. I have it sitting here this time too. We have the copy of the Steelbook edition of Friday the 13th Part 3. We have a copy of Aquaman King of Atlantis, which has some crazy art style.
That's cool.
It's actually really good. I didn't think I was gonna like this, but it's fun. It's technically a continuation of the movie.
Oh.
But it's not as well. Basically, what happens is at the end of the Aquaman movie with Jason Momoa, he gets the trident. He becomes King of Atlantis.
Right.
This takes place as he's now King of Atlantis on whatever adventure.
Oh.
It is not Jason Momoa. It has nothing to do with that story. It's ridiculous. It was originally put on HBO Max as a 3-part miniseries, which each episode being like 40-something minutes long. This new DVD puts it together as one long movie. It's really fun. It's crazy animation. I had a blast with it.
Okay.
Then we also have copies of the Steelbook edition of Raiders of the Lost Ark on 4K, and of course the Fantastic Beasts, Secrets of Dumbledore on Blu-ray.
I liked it just fine. I do think there is an issue with changing out Johnny Depp for Mads Mikkelsen because
that's the big problem with the movie. Outside of the fact that this movie is so boring,
they should have just dyed his hair and told him act a little crazy because he didn't. He mads it up.
It was a different actor playing a different character that was not supposed to be a different character. And they could have easily done the change too, because like in the first movie, it's Colin Farrell.
Yeah,
like you want to see my dreams come true. It's Colin Farrell who turns into Johnny Depp.
That is your dream come true right there. That's Man Crush Monday.
You ever want to see a grown non-gay man get excitable? You watch Colin Farrell turn into Johnny Depp.
But they could have easily done it like this was a new disguise.
It could have been. That was always a disguise. This is my real persona. Or
correct.
There's so many things they could have done and they didn't.
They didn't.
And I appreciate the fact that Mads Mikkelsen or whatever the hell his name is.
Mads.
I said Mads, but Mikkelsen. Jen Erso's dad. I can or Hannibal Lecter. I can appreciate the fact that he was trying not to mimic Johnny Depp, but you can't do that with a pre-existing character for 2 films.
I agree.
You've got to do something to make the audience understand there's a change.
That there's a change.
Not just
even
in
if
real
it's
life.
An old school Days of Our Life. The part of Jennifer will now be
even with Iron Man when
you remember they used to do that on Days of Our Lives.
But even with Iron Man when they changed from what's his name to Don Cheadle.
Yes.
It was like there's a moment where they pass each other and he's like, "What are you doing here?" And Don Cheadle's like, "I'm here. Get over it." And so they're basically saying, "Look, we know, move on." So there's acknowledgement of it.
And Don Cheadle did a good job.
But he didn't even act the same. He didn't look the same. It was a completely different character.
I'm gonna watch it again.
And of course, you have the Ezra Miller's in here, but that's
that
problem.
Kid. Who knows? Anyway, so
you
go to our website, check out the contest page. Please follow the instructions on the contest to enter, so that your name will be included in the drawing.
And we have a couple of other ones that are fixing to hit. We do still, I know I mentioned it on the last show, we have copies of Lucifer, one of the Lucifer seasons. I have a copy of, what is that? What's his name?
I don't know.
Liev Schreiber. What's that show name?
Liev Schreiber?
Yeah, what's that show yet?
Oh, Ray Donovan.
The Ray Donovan movie.
So
a season of Curb Your Enthusiasm, and some other movie that I got to add to these, but I haven't had time. So I've been putting some of the bigger ones up. So if you email me and say, "Hey, I'm really interested in Lucifer or Curb Your Enthusiasm," who knows? You may just get it.
You just get it. It's fine. All right. Well,
matter of fact, I think somebody did email me about Lucifer, so you may get it.
There you go. Thank you. Anyways, gentle viewers, thank you for watching us. Thank you for being with us on this Hollywood Matrimony Live. We're live on Facebook and YouTube. Thank you for watching our nonsense. We appreciate you. We love you. Thank you. Check out the website. Go to the contest page, HollywoodMatrimony.com. Go find us on the Instagram and Twitter. Go send us likes, hearts, thumbs up, bubbles, stars, whatever you want to do. We appreciate you. We love you. And we will see you next Sunday. Peace be with you, my
And much like
friends.
everybody else in the world, I am
So over.
so over it.